And that was the kickoff track from another great record from our very talented artist that we're going to be speaking to in a few moments, and it's a true honor. This is the Upper Room with Joe Kelley in WVOF in Fairfield, Connecticut. From Paul Jackson Jr.'s Lay It Back, we just heard The Workout, and we want to welcome to WVOF in the Upper Room with Joe Kelley, Paul Jackson Jr. How you doing, Paul?
I'm great. I'm blessed in the Lord and highly favored. I'm doing good today.
You spoke about the Lord, and obviously you're a spiritual person, and I was reading something a little back. You were talking about preparing for a record in your spirituality. Tell us how you bring that into your music.
Well, it's funny. What I do is, to tell you the truth, is I drive around in the car a lot with the radio off.
Okay.
And it allows me to think and hear from God and just come up with ideas and I drive around with a I have a tape recorder a lot of times, and sometimes I just have a piece of paper and a pencil, and ideas will come to me, and I'll write them down on a piece of paper, write the music out, or I'll put them down on a recorder, and a lot of that times those turn into songs that end up on CD. So it's kind of a process of listening, seeing what God has to say and direction-wise, or sometimes it might be something, hey, why don't you just try this idea or try this idea. So that's kind of what I do. Is usually I prepare for a record by being prayerful and being quiet.
And you have your own home studio?
There's a little room here where I can put my ideas down and come up with things, do pre-production and all that kind of stuff, and then we go to the real spot to lay the tracks down.
Now, Lay It Back, amazing record on your record company, right? Branch Records?
Branch Records, the first project for Branch Records.
Now, first of all, tell us about choosing the name for your record company. I'm sure it's important, and what's it like and the prospects for your own record label?
Well, let's see. The name Branch Records, actually, it's funny, we're talking about spirituality. It came from the Bible. Jesus said that I am the vine and ye the branches, and if you abide in me, you're fine. If not, there's nothing, apart from me, you can do nothing. So I said, man, that's kind of interesting. Apart from the Lord, I can't do anything. He said, I am the vine, ye the branches. I said, Branch is a good name for a record company. So this is the first release from Branch. That's how we got the title, and just kind of decided that it was time for me to do that, time for me to just kind of focus on doing it myself and kind of being proactive, if you will, not really waiting for other folks, but taking the reins and really doing it myself. And so that's why we started Branch Records.
Paul Jackson Jr., his website is pauljacksonjr.com. You also should check out his MySpace page and keep in contact with Paul. And
Facebook as well. I got Facebook jumping on.
Yeah. How about Twitter? Have you gotten into that?
Haven't started Twittering yet. I've been seeing a lot of that. I haven't done that yet. I only got so much time in a day, so I'm still working on the other two. So
I'll tell you. I'm from a personal. I signed up for that. Promotion stuff, and it just I'm like you too much. And I tried to stop the Twitter, and you can't delete your account yet.
Yeah, it's kind of deep, the same thing with Facebook. In one day I had like 500 friends, and it's like, wow, this is going to take a while to deal with. So,
Yeah, in between all you got on your plate, and Paul Jackson Jr. is one of the most talented musicians around, tremendous guitarist, and I got to tell you this, growing up. I'm looking around the home studio here and so many record albums. And, I was the kind of kid, and when I got into radio, I read the liner notes, and I always wondered who, Greg Gaines, Paul Jackson Jr., and Marcus Miller were. And you guys were the engine behind all this great music with these artists like Luther. And how did you get into the studio work?
It's an interesting story. A lot of recommendations. I got a lot of recommendations from people like Ray Parker Jr. and Al McKay from Earth, Wind & Fire, and Lee Ritenour, and Patrice Rushen actually was my first boss, and so I started working with her live, and then she brought me in the studio. And then also, interesting story, a guy by the name of Frank Wilson, who wrote a lot of stuff for the Supremes and Temptations and Four Tops and Eddie Kendricks, at that time in the late 70s, was a record producer, and I started doing demos for him. And then he brought me in to work on a lot of records for, people like Lenny Williams and Lamont Dozier and Mighty Clouds of Joy. And the funny thing is he ended up being my pastor, which is kind of neat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a lot of recommendations, a lot of help from a lot of really good people.
And you're still at the call with musicians between your own music. And We're actually going to listen to a song right now, another one, the title track off the record. And how'd you sequence the record as far as song, the flow of it?
Well, what I do is I call on the talents of a buddy of mine by the name of James Reese. Actually, James is featured on the CD singing "Can This Be Real?" And James's background is in DJing, doing big clubs. He was the DJ at Prince's Club in Los Angeles and a lot of other places. So he knows kind of like if a person were sitting listening to music or a person were on a dance floor, or that kind of thing, what they would be feeling. So I kind of give James a copy of all the songs and ask him, if you were a DJ, since you are a DJ, what order would you put them in? What do you think feels the best? And so I kind of let him sequence the record, and that's what he came up with.
All right, so props to James Reese, your buddy, and this is the title track from Paul Jackson Jr.'s latest CD called Lay It Back. He's our special guest here at WVOF, and we'll come back and speak more with Paul. And that's the title track, once again, from Paul Jackson Jr., our special guest here on the Upper Room with Joe Kelley and WVOF. Paul is with us, and the album, you can pick it up at pauljacksonjrjr.com, and I'm sure all the internet download sites as well, right?
Right, little iTunes, Amazon.com, CDBaby.com, and so yeah, all the places, yeah.
In between, we'll talk a little later on about your duties as a lead guitarist in the American Idol band and all the things going on there. But you're going to be playing something dear to your heart, I'm sure, at the in Pennsylvania, in Reading, at the Berks Jazz Fest on April 3rd. And what's going on over there for you?
Having some fun doing a organ trio tribute to Jimmy Smith and Wes Montgomery with Bobby Lyle. So that's going to be a lot of fun. My dad, when I was a kid, was always listening to Jimmy Smith records. Every time I remember getting up on the weekends, I would hear Jimmy Smith records. And so Bobby and I got this idea, and I said, "Man, why don't we do this organ trio tribute?" So that's what we're going to do.
We were hanging out with a couple guys who are playing the Berks Jazz Fest tonight. When we were with them last night, J.D. Blair and Victor Wooten. So,
right.
Yeah, a lot of great music going to be over there.
It's a really fabulous festival. It goes on, for I think it's 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like different satellite spots all over the city. So it's a great event.
Your job is lead guitarist, and I got to give you, what a nice surprise this week when I saw you on next to Adam Lambert performing Smokey's song with the acoustic guitar. It's always nice to see, you guys, Ricky Minor and company. You're right up front with that the highlight of the week. Everybody's saying.
Man, that was a blast. We had a lot of fun, and musically it was really cool. Smokey sitting there, and so musically that was a lot of fun for us. So I'm glad people really liked it because we had a blast doing it.
Take us back to getting involved with the biggest TV show, playing music, American Idol, and how you got into the band and playing lead guitar.
Well, the American Idol job came as a result of my relationship with Ricky Minor. Ricky Minor was the musical director for Whitney Houston for years, and I played on the road in Whitney's band for 5 years. And after we left the road, we kept our relationship happening and went on to do a lot of TV shows like Motown Live and several things on the Grammys and the Image Awards and lots of things. And so Ricky was asked to be the musical director for American Idol, and he said yes. And so he gave us a call and said, "Would you like to do it?" I said, "Sure." So it was as a result of my relationship with my buddy Ricky Minor.
Now, how involved in something like the arrangement that you performed with Adam Lambert this week do you get involved in the song?
Well, with that, fortunately, because it was primarily acoustic guitar, very involved. It's kind of like outside of Adam saying, "Okay, let's make it feel this way." It's kind of like all on the musicians at that point. It was on myself, Ricky, and Teddy Campbell, who was playing the cajon.
Right.
So a lot. Also big ups to Kevin Ricard, because Kevin Ricard really kind of conceptualized the cajon vibe. Kevin Ricard's the percussionist in the band, so we kind of came up with it along with Adam.
You find the artists competing there, picking you guys your brains about playing music and writing songs?
Well, writing songs, no, we don't really get a chance to converse with them that much on a musical level. Usually just kind of musical ideas. How do you think this song should go? And their primary focus. Hang on a second. I'll start that again. Excuse me. Their primary focus is to conceptualize the songs that they have to choose from, which are obviously all come from top radio hits and stuff like that. So really, they call on us to kind of come up with ideas of how to help them maybe better present the songs that they're given or the songs that they choose.
Paul Jackson Jr. here, Joe Kelley, and the Upper Room. And if you're listening here at WVOF, we will also be re-airing it on upperroomwithjoekelly.com. G. DeSo and myself in a couple weeks. Paul Jackson Jr., the interview and music special. We're going to slow things down just a bit from the album, Lay It Back, and play a song which is outstanding, the ballad for Uncle Ronnie, who is it's a tribute to Luther Vandross. How do you get the name Uncle Ronnie?
Well, if you notice, with Luther Vandross, on every song that he wrote, the publishing company was Uncle Ronnie's music.
Okay.
And I asked him one day, I said, well, who is Uncle Ronnie? He said, well, that's me. My middle name is Ronzoni.
Oh, okay.
All of his nieces and nephews called him Uncle Ronnie. Hey, Uncle Ronnie, Uncle Ronnie. So that was the name of his publishing company and his production company. So when I came up with the tune, I figured I'd call it Ballad for Uncle Ronnie.
Yeah, it's a really nice track, and you're working on this with Teddy Campbell.
Right, Teddy Campbell, the drum on idol, and Alex Al, and Dave DeLome as well. And Bobby Lyle played acoustic piano.
All right, this is Paul Jackson Jr., another standout song from Lay It Back. It's dedicated to Luther Vandross, who we definitely miss. Ballad for Uncle Ronnie. We'll come back and speak more with Paul. That's a great song right there from Paul Jackson Jr.'s Lay It Back, Ballad for Uncle Ronnie, which is his latest record on his own record label, Branch Records, and you can go to pauljacksonjr.com to pick up the release and dig into the rest of Paul's discography. And I believe this is your seventh solo CD, right?
This is my seventh CD, yeah.
And took a little break, and of course we understand why, because you've been so busy with working on The Idol and other projects. But when I'm telling people, musicians who aren't necessarily on the top 40 singing and everything, and I tell them how great musicians there are, I love it as a music lover to see whenever you come out with stuff. So thanks again.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. So you've planning on getting out on the road, and tell us about some of the things you got coming up this spring and summer.
Well, like you said, we're doing Berks. Got a couple of concerts in Los Angeles, and also some things toward the end of the year, doing a gig with my buddy Chuck Loeb and Chieli Minucci. We've been doing some dates as the group Guitars. So we got a few of those dates coming up, I think one in New York, and a few other things that are happening. You can check them out mostly, sometimes I forget, but if you ever want to know, go to pauljacksonjr.com, and all the stuff is there, the touring schedule. But, things are coming in, fortunately, all the time, so just trying to do more and more and more to meet the folks and play some good music live.
You were born and raised in L.A., and you went to music school at USC, home of the Trojans. So
absolutely, right on.
A tough loss in the college tournament, but the basketball tournament recently. But decent season.
Yeah, they did well. I mean, USC is more of a football school, but
yeah, right. Yeah, can't complain about the way you get playing on a gridiron.
Exactly.
So what was the music school like and getting into it? We're more familiar over here with Berkeley because we're on the East Coast, but right. How about out at USC?
Well, actually, USC's reputation is for being one of the best music schools around. Mm-hmm. And at that time when I went, they were like probably the only place that had outside of Berkeley that had a major of studio guitar. So, it was a really, really good place to be, really good place to go to school. And, I really feel fortunate for, having been able to go there.
Well, when you were enrolled in the school, did you know that it was a short time you're going to be out there with playing world-class music with top-flight musicians?
I really didn't. I mean, you have hopes and you have dreams and aspirations, but, it was really just the blessing of the Lord that enabled me to get started and get things going.
Now, one thing that I really dug on your website, and plus in the liner notes of the current CD, is you show some of those old pictures. You got a ton of pictures on your website, which is great. Yeah. Going back in time, you started out in acting. How'd you get into that?
It's funny. It's kind of like the story of my life. I was on a game show with my brother and sister and my mom and dad. and a producer saw me and said, "Hey, I want to interview that kid for a part on television." And I got the part, and I ended up, kind of getting an agent. And from the time I was 7 to the time I was 15, I did like one part or one TV show or one commercial like a year, But it was kind of cool. I mean, I had a good time doing it, and it was a lot of fun.
And family, music all through it. Your sister's in your band, right?
Yep, she plays percussion. My sister's a percussionist.
Right. Now tell us, you told a little bit about the Jimmy Smith records and everything, but what was it like putting a band together and everybody getting along? What'd that early music output sound like from the Jackson family?
Well, we had a lot of fun. I mean, because, my mom and dad were like, hey, do this right, or, like, get along and stuff like that. Plus, we were having fun. I mean, when you're a kid, it's just supposed to be fun.
Right.
And we had a lot of fun. So just, playing around town, playing at dances and parties and this and that. So we just kind of had fun, that's all.
Working on the record is your good buddy Cornelius Mims, and how far back does your partnership go?
Wow, I have known Cornelius. Wow, let's see.
He was on some Patrice records, right?
Not really.
Okay.
He may have been on one. I think he was on one.
Okay.
But I've known Cornelius really since I was in elementary school.
Okay.
And then we ended up going to high school together, and just kept working together in bands and records and productions and things like that. So I've known Cornelius most of my life.
Wow. How about things? Have they changed since you guys are, well established in music as how you work? And
no, we still get in the studio and tell jokes and clown and
right.
and quote things from the movie Coming to America. And
great movie, yeah.
That's our favorite movie. So we still kind of like still act silly and do the same stuff.
Yeah, our got Jeff Settles and Tory Ruffin buddies from that movie in the band.
Right.
Yeah.
The band Sexual Chocolate.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, Laid Back is available, Paul Jackson Jr.'s website, and also check out his Facebook and MySpace page. And tell us about, you mentioned you don't listen to so much music in your car because you're concentrating and trying to focus on things. But, when you kick back at home, what would be some of the stuff we may be hearing other than your own music in your home?
Well, you probably hear straight ahead, and you probably hear oldies.
Okay.
And old hip-hop.
Right. Oh, okay. Who are some of the artists you like hip-hop going back?
Well, I used to like Black Sheep, and I used to like Tribe Called Quest, and who else did I like? Kumo D, and some of that kind of stuff, because before rap really started getting into the profanity and the sexual thing and stuff like that. So I used to really Brand Nubians I liked, and all that kind of stuff.
Right. You've got so much things happen in L.A. What is the live music scene like out your way, clubs and otherwise venues? Well,
there's still a lot of clubs going on. In fact, I'm going to hear a buddy of mine, Cy Smith, tonight at the Mint, who also actually sings on American Idol. Really talented artist. You should check her out, Cy Smith. But there's still a lot of clubs where people can showcase, put on some good music and things like that. I wish that there were more clubs that would bring people in on a little bit higher level in terms of like concerts. Maybe some artists that can't quite fill the Nokia, but might be able to fill clubs, that are like 400, 500, 600 seater.
Right.
I wish more of that were going on, but there's not a lot of that in LA right now, and I wish there were more.
Speaking of Nokia, your buddy Prince is going to be tearing up the town tomorrow night, I hear.
I think so, actually.
Yeah, 3 shows in one night. Crazy. Yeah. Something that I'm sure hurt when it happened, and still probably a lot to it, but you had some guitars stolen recently, right?
I did, actually. I had 3 instruments actually stolen from my house, which was a major drag.
Yeah, but they found one of them?
Found one of them.
Okay.
And, hoping to get the other 2, but, it takes a lot to get me down. I mean, getting your guitar stolen, that's an inconvenience. Your house burning down, that's a problem.
Right.
So, I kind of look at things in perspective. I have a whole lot more to be thankful for than I do to complain about. And, I can get another guitar.
Right.
Won't stop me from playing. So, like I said, it was hurtful and inconvenience, but, I just have to keep on stepping. I mean, God has blessed me way too much to just, get discouraged about that kind of stuff.
Now, let's say, you pick up a new guitar. Is there like a a time frame that you know, like working in a baseball glove, that you feel comfortable with a new guitar?
It takes a while. You know,
Oh, really?
you get to play it for a while. You know, a few months, a couple of years, or whatever. It takes a minute, but you know, you make it happen.
Right. What were you playing on the Idol this week? Playing with Adam Lambert.
Oh, very interesting story. It was a brand new acoustic guitar that's just been put out by Paul Smith.
Who was it put out by?
Paul Reed Smith, PRSguitars.com.
Oh, okay.
And they're known for their electric guitars, but they just started making acoustic guitars and amplifiers, both of which are pretty incredible. So I got a chance to play one on the show, and that's what you heard, the PRS acoustic.
What are you guys working? What's the theme for this upcoming week?
You know, I don't know yet. I have to check it out. I'll be surprised when I hear the music on Sunday.
Oh, wow. So there's not too much time. Wow, you guys are all the top of your craft, but they don't give you that much lead time, right?
No, not really at all. We basically record the music on Sunday and play it live on Tuesday. So we really have very little time.
Now, how about to be involved, like in a show like American Idol with the house band and everything? Does everybody have to be able to read music?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we have to do so much music and very quickly. It's a must.
Right.
You know, you have to be able to read music and assimilate the parts pretty quickly.
And those that can't get weeded out fast, right?
Well, it's kind of a thing where yeah, I guess you could put it that way, where you kind of weed yourself out, you know.
Right.
You know, it's like the old saying, the more you learn, the more you can earn.
Oh, right. Right.
And so it's just a situation where you want to be that much better than the next guy, or that much more on top of things. It's funny, Ricky Minor, the MD, wrote a book called There's No Traffic on the Extra Mile.
Oh, wow.
You're the guy that's willing. It's a great book. You should check it out.
Oh, okay.
And if you're the guy that's willing to go the extra mile, to stay up the hour later, to stay after school, to get up before school, you know, to not go out and hang with your friends, you know, or whatever, and you're willing to put in the time, then you're the guy that's going to succeed.
You talked about your first job with working for Patrice Rushen.
Right.
Yeah, such an amazing musician. Does she still teach out that way?
She actually doesn't teach too much. Well, she teaches part-time at Berkeley. She does, I think, 4 weeks a year at Berkeley, and then still does a lot of film scoring and arranging for things and stuff, and still playing around. So I get a chance to see her. Not as much as I'd like, but I still do see her a lot.
You'll be right out in Pennsylvania at the Berks Jazz Fest on April 3rd. A great show, guaranteed. And you can always check PaulJacksonJr.com for the latest on his tour dates. Go out and support Independent Music Branch Records and lay it back. Bring some extra money, because I'm sure you have a table set up to buy the CD.
I will.
Yeah. Now tell us about your family, because you know something really nice in the liner notes that you wrote about them and how they get involved in your project. Tell us about your kids.
Well, let's see. My daughter Lindsay sings background on about 4 songs on the CD, and my son Paul III helped me with the song actually called "Hit It" that we just kind of like conceptualized together. So, you know, they helped, and my daughter she's a music major in college, and my son is, you know, started singing and playing piano and stuff. So they are following in the old footsteps here.
Right. And you still got a lot of time to go to keep on making great music. So we look forward to that.
From your lips to God's ears, I hope.
So, yay! Speaking of Hit It, we're gonna go out. First of all, we want to thank you, because after all these years, listening to your music and seeing you everywhere, it's been great to have you on.
Man, Joe, thanks for having me, brother.
And if you come to the East Coast, you get out to the New York, Connecticut area, or is that?
I do sometimes, yeah, actually.
Yeah. You're always welcome to come by the studio. We have bands, and you can do a little set in the studio if you want.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're going to go out with the song which your son is on this record, Paul Jackson III, Hit It. And then we're going to bring the funk in with Swing It, which you wrote. Miss Mitty Music. Yeah. Tell us about Miss Mitty. Who's that?
Miss Mitty, that was my grandmother. Her nickname was Mitty.
Oh, okay, right.
So, my grandmother passed actually 2 years ago. So, I figured I'd name the publishing company after her, keep her memory alive, and, stuff like that. So that's why I call it Miss Mitty Music.
Yeah, great tribute to her. So thanks so much, Paul, my brother, and go out and see Paul at the Berks Fest in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Don't come out.
That's right. He'll be there. How many guitars you travel with?
Hey, Dad. What are you doing?
Just bringing one. Bring a hollow
I'm trying to come up with something new for myself.